Hi, this is Jason from I Can Thrive. I've got one of my awesome clients here, Judith, from Ireland, and she actually healed chronic fatigue syndrome. She also has post-viral fatigue, which is totally awesome. So let's get stuck into the interview. So Judith, what was your life like before you got
So, yeah, before I got ill, I lived a really active life. I worked full time, so I was working as a service improvement project manager, and I was
ill?
also studying a part-time master's, at the same time. So I was really ambitious in terms of both my career and also my kind of personal development, academic side of things. And I also had a really busy life outside of work. So, really physically active. I have always loved physical activity and was really super active. So, I would have tried to do some form of physical activity every day, whether that has been going, even just walking the dog. But I loved hiking, climbing mountains, running. I did a triathlon before I got sick. So really into my physical activity and just love being outside and being active. And then also had, I suppose, a really busy social life. I just love going out with friends, going out for dinner, and going to events, and also did loads of traveling. So a really busy life, I would have said, that from, I suppose, work and social life. Really busy, really active.
Awesome. And so when did the illness start for you?
So I got sick around the end of September, start of October 2020. And I had pneumonia or query COVID. I wasn't entirely sure. So it was kind of it was the start of the pandemic, pre-vaccines, pre-really good COVID testing. But I had those kind of symptoms. I had a really bad cough and really bad breathlessness. And was really unwell initially when I first got sick. So I suppose when I first got sick, it was the physical symptoms, and I was in bed for, I would say, those first 2 to 3 weeks, with not just the cough, but also the complete lack of energy. I was just completely floored. Like I couldn't really do anything. Even like walking the length of my hall, walking from my bedroom to my living room, was so exhausting, and I was so completely out of breath. And I really wasn't able to do anything. Even basic things like showering and things like that became a bit of a luxury. It's not something that I could have done every day. So that was my initial illness for those kind of first few weeks, and I assumed that it was just a really bad chest infection, whether that was pneumonia, whether it was COVID. I wasn't entirely sure, but after, I suppose it took maybe, I guess it took about 6 weeks for the physical symptoms to start to show any kind of improvement, for the cough to ease up, for the breathlessness to improve. But with that, I still continued to have my lack of energy, and was still really struggling with fatigue. So certainly for that first month, I didn't really do a whole lot.
So that was like a huge change in your life altogether. And what were you thinking? Like, were you, I'm sure you were worried and concerned about it, and how about your family as well?
Yeah, again, I think at this stage, yes, I was a little bit worried, and kind of when I hit that 12-week mark, that's when I started to get worried, because the doctor said, give it, 12 weeks post viral. So I'd kind of done that. And I was a little bit concerned as to what was going on. So I'd been back to the doctor a couple of times and done lots of different tests, lots of blood tests and things like this. And they were all coming back clear, and thought, great. At least there's nothing else there. That
Hmm.
the advice was, yeah, again, this was a really serious illness that you had. You were really unwell, so it might just take a little bit longer. They said it might take 6 months. Post viral can go on for 6 months. So I thought, oh gosh, right, okay. But at least I had another deadline at that point. And when I came into the new year, I did start to see some improvement. So in the new year, I was able to do a lot more. Like, I was starting to get my energy level back. I could start to try and go out for short walks and things like that. And I did start to see improvement. So that's really what I was focused on. I was going, okay, this is going to take 6 months, but I can start to see, yeah, I'm definitely getting better, right? And
Hmm.
I actually started to do a phased return to work. So at the end of, I think, February time, I was able to go back to work, but on reduced hours. I was able to manage that, so I was able to go back to work and do that. But as I said, like, I wasn't really doing a whole lot outside of that. Like, I wasn't doing any housework or anything like that. Like, I didn't have capacity that way. But for me, I was seeing improvement. I thought, right, well, I'm able to work a little bit. I'm able to socialize a little bit, maybe go for short walks. So I'm definitely getting better. And over, I suppose that 6 month period that I was given, I did start to get better, but I had a couple of what I call relapses. So throughout that time, I got a couple of different episodes of vertigo, which is something that I'd never had before, and each time something like that happened, it completely knocked me back from the progress that I was making. The vertigo was horrendous, so bad. So each time I got an episode of that, it was kind of back to maybe 4 or 5 days in bed. Mostly because, well, one, because of the exhaustion, and two, because of just how bad my symptoms were. Even moving my head, the dizziness and the nausea that would cause was awful. And those kind of initial symptoms maybe took 4 days, 5 days to kind of settle, and then maybe took another 3 weeks after that of really bad um, fatigue symptoms that came along with that. So for that period of time, I was a little bit up and down, but I was focused on this 6 months that I've been given, and I was focused on, the people were very supportive as well. My family were really supportive. They said, like, you were really ill. Like, everybody saw how ill I was. For those first 4 weeks, I really didn't get out of bed. Like, I was so ill. And that was kind of just going around in my head. It was like, okay, I was really sick. And actually, I started to make really good progress, and around the summertime, I was doing a lot better, and I took on a new program of work. I was working now full time. I'd taken on a new program of work, and I would say I was managing. I was managing to do some social activities. I was managing my work. Still wasn't able to do much around the house or anything like that. That was beyond my capacity. I couldn't do everything. I had to choose the things that I could still manage, and I was still very much in that place of going, if I do this, can I do this?
Right.
If I go out for lunch with my friends this afternoon, can I realistically go for a walk later on? Well, no. But I was managing it, and I had a system. But around that time, then, when my work started to get really intense, really pressurized, and I went I threw myself fully into that, and put absolutely everything I had into working. And some of those patterns of behavior we talk about, right? Those overachiever patterns, the perfectionist patterns came in. So I was trying to deliver a program of work, and started then some of those really bad habits of, things like working 12 hours a day, and really pressurized environment. And then I started, initially I could do that, and then I started to see the impact. I was able to do less and less outside of work, and it got to the point where really all I was doing was working, and actually working became really challenging. Even trying to do that was getting more and more difficult, and it got to the point where my body just said no. I was trying to push through it. I was trying to make that happen, and my body just said no. And this was about a year post, I suppose, getting initially sick, when I had a really bad relapse. I was completely burnt out, mentally, physically, completely burnt out. And I really went back to a place of really bad fatigue. I was back to not being able to do anything. I couldn't work, so I had to take off work again. I couldn't really do anything. I was spending the majority of my time in bed again, just resting. The really bad fatigue symptoms were back, the ones that most people can understand, but you certainly can understand, those ones where it just completely consumes you. Your whole body feels so heavy, sore, the aches came back, and that was really difficult for me. That was probably one of the, apart from the initial illness, that was probably one of my lowest points, where I'd had these relapses before, but they'd maybe been a knockback, and then I was able to keep going. I was able to rest for a little while, and then maybe get back to that kind of balance that I had been achieving. And at this point, it was really clear that this was way bigger than that. So at that point, I went back to the doctor again, went back to the GP, more tests, more investigations, and they all came back negative. And this is that was actually really disappointing for me, which sounds so strange because normally when you go to the doctor and they tell you there's nothing wrong, you think, great, that's the outcome you wanted. But I just wanted them to tell me there was something wrong. I thought, please just let it be my thyroid, just my thyroid. That's, then I can take the medication and I'll be better.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted there to be something. I wanted there to be a pill. I wanted there to be a treatment plan, and then say, do this and you'll get better. But no, everything came back negative, and because I'd been sick for over a year at this point, they then concluded that this was chronic fatigue, and they were now giving me a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome, and that was really difficult. It's probably something that I knew myself. I had known for a period of months, having been sick for as long as I had, having seen my own symptoms, the lack of progress that I was making, but actually getting that diagnosis was really, really difficult. And even in the title of it, right, the word chronic, that to me, it was like, yeah, that means you're never going to get better. I've just been given a diagnosis that says you're never going to get better. Um, yeah, and what do you do with that information? And especially with me, one of the biggest frustrations with me was that I did live such an active life, and I love exercise so much. I love being outside so much. Oh, it's everything to me. And a lot of people would have said to me, especially when at the points where I was getting better, but you can do this and you can do this and you can do this. And I'm going, but I don't want to just be able to go for a short walk and a coffee. I don't want to just be able to meet my friends for dinner. I want to be able to do so much more than that. So it was just so gutting to think that this is where this was it, and I had this diagnosis, and this is just always the way it was going to be, and those little, I suppose, achievements that I had got, that might be the best that I ever could have. So that was a really difficult time for me. I spent another couple of months then. That was, I suppose, around October, right up to October, November, coming into December, of really bad symptoms. Not being able to do very much. Just spending most of my time resting in bed on the sofa, doing little bits and pieces what I could. But that was about it.
Okay. And so what kind of treatments did you try after that?
So I tried um, I tried a lot of different things, but so I suppose once I got my diagnosis of chronic fatigue, that kind of gave me something. I thought, well, there's something here, and then I started doing lots of different research and thought, what I started looking at what I could do. So, um, I one of the things I did was started to take a lot of different supplements. So,
Okay.
lots of different vitamins, minerals, probiotics, anything they were selling really. I think there was at one point I was taking maybe, I would say, 20 different tablets a day. Of different supplements, vitamins, all of these different things.
Wow.
I started taking live probiotics, so I was having kefir and kombucha every day.
Were you doing anything to relax or to help yourself to feel more at ease?
Oh yeah, my diet. So yeah, I also started to make quite a lot of dietary changes. So I had read a lot of research on different diets that you can do. So I cut out alcohol. I had actually cut out alcohol a good while before that because I couldn't take alcohol anyway. It was very clear to me. I drank alcohol. It had a really negative impact on my fatigue. So cut out alcohol. I cut out all refined sugar, cut out caffeine, and then I also really tried to manage my saturated fats and things like that. So starting to make those kind of real big dietary changes as well.
And what kind of changes did you notice from that?
Um, not a whole lot. Um,
Okay.
I didn't really see any big changes or any big improvements based on that.
That must have been frustrating.
Certainly really frustrating, yeah. And I suppose I was at a point where I said, like, I will do anything. So maybe as well, I was kind of frantically doing all of these things. One day you're looking at supplements and you go, okay, I'll take all of these supplements, and then the next day you read that it's probiotics, and you think, okay, well, I'll take probiotics, and then they say cut out caffeine, so I go, yeah, I'll cut out caffeine, and it was nearly like you were constantly this chasing
Hmm.
this dream that there was an answer, and chasing this dream of getting better. So you would do anything. And yeah, it was so frustrating that to not see those results and improvements based on all of those things. But I just kept going and just kept. I said I would try anything. I did at one point. I said I would literally do anything to get better.
Yeah. So when did you find brain training?
Yeah, so it was around the December of 2021. So when I was in my really bad relapse stage and I was trying different treatment options or trying different methods to get better, and I was doing so much research. So I'd been given my diagnosis and I became so obsessed. All of the energy that I had was spent on doing research. So I read journal papers, I read books, I listened to podcasts, I watched YouTube. And then I started to see little bits and pieces coming in about body and mind connection, about
Okay.
the central nervous system, around kind of brain retraining, all of that kind of information. And I thought, yeah, this actually sounds, when I looked at the physiology behind it and the data and the science behind it, I thought, okay, there's something here. And I think it's through that research then that I found your story. I had seen a video on your story, and that's really what led me to the brain retraining. And for me, it was so impactful, and so much of it resonated with me. How you had felt. Now I know that you were sick for a lot longer than me, and that was even difficult for me watching that. I thought, oh my goodness, like how has he done this for so long? Because the mindset that you were in, which was, I can't do this anymore, I can't be sick anymore, I
Hmm.
need to get better, was exactly where I was. I got to the point where I said, I don't want this to be my life. Do you know, I don't want to have a life where I can just about do the, just about
Hmm.
manage, or just do sometimes be in a place where I can do something that I want to actually do. I can't live like this, and this is not how I'm going to live. So I had made myself a promise. I made myself a promise that I'm going to get better, whatever it takes, whatever that looks like. This year, I'm going to get better. And at that stage, I didn't know what it was. And then when I came across your material and the videos that you had done, I thought, yeah, that's what this is. I didn't know what it was, but when I looked at our stories and when I looked at such a similar approach that you had taken, and to see your outcomes, I thought, yeah, I found it. This has to be it. I have to find it.
Fantastic. Awesome. And in terms of when you started, what kind of progress did you notice with the brain training?
So when I first started, my progress, I would say, was slow and steady. And I had a lot of work to do around the relaxation, the stress side of things. So I was highly stressed. I was so focused, so entrapped by my illness, I would say. My illness had become my identity, and it really did. And how could it not? Because it controlled every single aspect of my life. So for me, um, that was probably the initial piece that I needed to break away from, and what the brain retraining helped me initially to do. I think the first kind of couple of weeks for me was just about resetting my mindset and starting to try and move back to the really basics of the taking it day by day, which is the most frustrating thing I think you can tell somebody that has CFS or has any kind of chronic fatigue, long-term condition. Because when you've been doing this, at this point I'd been doing it for maybe 16 months, and when you've been living this day in, day out, and you try to tell people that you have to take it day by day, that's probably one of the most frustrating things that you can have. But for me, and that's absolutely what we have to do. And now I had a plan and I had something to focus on. So actually just focusing every single day was really helpful. It stopped me, I suppose, catastrophizing. It stopped me thinking about, for me as well, it was breaking that cycle of the constant negative thinking about what I can't do. So that was those first couple of weeks, and how I chose to approach it was trying to apply the technique to give myself a new challenge that I could test this out with in a safe way, because I was still really, really a little bit apprehensive about the negative impact that pushing myself too hard could do. So I chose sea swimming, within all of my research, I had found a lot of the benefits of cold water swimming. And I absolutely hate the cold. I hate being cold. And I thought that sounds great, but I could never. But when I looked at the benefits of it and the potential it could have for me in terms of recovery, I thought this is something I had to do. And then with the brain retraining, it was something that I was able to do. I was able to use the methods and the techniques that we were talking about to be able to I suppose get myself into the mentality to actually be able to do that. So that's how I first applied the brain retraining, was to go sea swimming. And I remember the first time I did it, I maybe lasted less than 30 seconds. Got in the sea, screamed and got out, but I did it. And I got that positive outcome that I wanted and that I had been thinking about from our methods and from talking about it, that I thought it would have. And I started to apply this then over the next couple of weeks. So I started to try to go 2, 3, 4 times a week, as many times a week as I could. And each time I was starting to see progress. Each time I was working it up in my mind beforehand, thinking it through. Obviously do the visualizations, things like that, and started to see the progress and moved from 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and even got up to 10 minutes. And I mean, this was January in Ireland. So, yeah, it was a challenge, but I was starting to
Very
see the
cold.
progress,
Yeah.
really cold. And then I was able to apply that. So once I could see what I could do and what I could achieve and how I could push those limits, but actually see the positive outcomes, then I was able to apply that to other areas of physical activity. So I started to apply it to walking. So using the same kind of similar approach. So putting away my Strava, stopping focusing on how far I was going, how fast I was going, but actually completely rethinking it and starting to look at just that enjoyment piece. Just celebrating being able to do it, enjoying being outside. These are places that I have wanted to go for so long that I haven't been able to go, or things that I haven't been able to do. And yes, whilst I might not be doing exactly as much as I want to right now, I actually just focusing on that moment and focusing on how much I was achieving at that time.
Yes.
And then starting and using the techniques that we had obviously talked about, such as something that I found really helpful was looking at out of 10. So instead of thinking I have to go for this amount of time or I have to go for this far, it was actually that completely just checking in with myself and saying, how do I feel?
Yes.
Yeah. Do I feel like I want to do more or could do more? And that was really helpful. And that mind shift for me was definitely the most, I think, powerful thing that helped me then to progress with all of those things.
Awesome. Yeah. So learning how to listen to your body. Yeah. Instead of, I think for
Exactly.
me in the past, I was living from here up because I didn't want to feel any of the symptoms and things in my body. So I was basically telling myself that I should do this or I must do that. And it was like that achiever pattern. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, starting to listen to your body and being more self-compassionate and doing an
Yeah.
appropriate amount of exercise. Yeah, that's a really key part of the program. That's awesome that you
Completely.
did that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
very
suppose
good.
like previous to that, even when you're saying listen to your body, because what I would have done was gone out for a walk, and it was like, well, last week I was able to walk this far, so therefore that's exactly the route that I would have done today,
Yeah.
because that's what I know that I can do this because I did it last week. But then I wasn't doing that piece of listening to my body,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's so damaging.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the old achiever pattern. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so important to overcome those things because now that you're better, I mean, you don't have to worry about your health ever again. Because now you're
yeah.
listening to your body, you're responding appropriately, and it's just automatic. It's just something you naturally do. Yeah, awesome. So, in terms of things, what are some awesome things that you've enjoyed, as you were getting better and now being better?
So for me, I think, as we said, like my progress was slow and steady, and I started just to build up slowly, to doing new things. So like my walking turned into hiking. One of the first
Hmm.
things I actually went and did was tennis. So I hadn't played tennis in years, and that was something that I really enjoyed, and I was able to do that. So I thought, okay, if I can play tennis, then yeah, I could hike. I was able to get back to the gym. And I just
Awesome.
slowly over the period of weeks and months started to add those activities in. And I think it was around, so we started in the January, February of 21, and it was by that summertime, that I started to kind of realize that slowly over that time, I stopped worrying so much about the impact of things. I stopped having to consider, can I do this? What happens if this happens? Or, if I go out with my friends tonight, will I be able to go for a walk tomorrow? Slowly just stopped doing that. And I think it was around the summertime that I realized, I actually realized that that had happened. I went, ooh. And then I thought, ooh, is this what being better is this what it looks like? Is that I think everybody's different. For me, I was so scared of saying, yeah, I'm better. But that was a little moment where I actually
I
realized,
understand.
yeah, I actually realized that I had shifted, like that I was more freely just able to do everything that I enjoyed doing, and that I was exercising, and that I was going out, and I wasn't having to manage it as much, and I wasn't having to think about it as much. And then over that summer, I just slowly started to build on it. So yeah, one of the things I did, I started playing tennis, and then I started to go. I was going on longer walks, and I joined the gym, and I went on holiday, and I was traveling a lot more, and it just kind of built and built and built, over those kind of periods of weeks and months. And by that summer, I was much more in a place of just completely living freely, and able to say yes to things again, able to say, yeah, do you want to go here? Absolutely. I didn't have to think the same way. So that was just so great for me. And oh, the difference, you can't understand it. And it's one of those things you can try, you can't understand it until you've been
It's
through
hard
it.
to
But
explain.
yeah, it is hard to explain, but when you're constantly having to consider every single move in your life, when that changes, oh, it's so freeing. It's so, so freeing. So yeah, that was some of the things that I really enjoyed. And then Christmas this year was so good because I spent two Christmases where all I did was show up, did the best I could to enjoy the day, or at least be present for part of the day, and went back to bed. And this year, I was there for the whole day. I went to Christmas. I didn't even think about it, to be fair, until I was doing my whole New Year's reflections and resolutions and whatever. But spent the whole day of Christmas with my family. Stayed up late, drank, all of those things, and that was so good. After having spent 2 years of awful Christmases, not even barely being able to attend, for me that was huge.
Wow, that's awesome. What is it like for your family? My goodness, it must be completely overjoyed for you.
Yeah, I mean, they're so so pleased, and there's just little comments along the way, right? I remember as I was getting better and as I was going through the program and things, and people had often said to me at different times, "Oh, it's great that you're definitely doing better. You look great. You're doing really well." But actually, then I think they started to see the difference, and that's when I started. People said to me, it was like, "Wow!" They were like, "This is what you used to be like." Oh, it's like having the old Judith
Hmm.
back. And yes, before I was able to do little bits and pieces, but actually they started to see the energy come back, the spark come back, all of those things. And for me, that was just it was so nice. To have other people recognize it as well. And I felt more like myself. I did feel like myself, and to feel that the energy was kind of radiating and everybody was picking up on it was, yeah, it was great. And my family have me
Fantastic.
doing loads now
Awesome.
as
And
well, is
so,
the other thing. Yeah, they have me doing loads, and we're definitely making up for lost time of when I couldn't do things, which is fun.
awesome, fantastic. So I know that you've just come back from holidays as well. And so what kind of things are you looking forward to in the near future
Yeah, so yeah, just back from a trip from Marrakesh, which was so much fun. And for the future, I'm just looking forward to lots more travel. So travel is just something I love to do. So there's going to be lots more traveling. And when I was sick, I kind of made myself a promise. When I got better and when I had my physical health back, I was going to do something with it, right? I was like, I can't believe I wasted all this time when I was healthy and I didn't run a marathon. I didn't climb this mountain. So I said, when I
now?
get better, yeah, when I get better, I'm going to do something with having my physical health back. So I set myself a couple of challenges for the year. I'm planning to run another triathlon, which will be my first since I got sick. And I'm also doing
Awesome.
the sevens. which is a challenge here in Northern Ireland to hike the 7 highest peaks in Northern Ireland over 700 meters in a day. So I think it's about 18 miles. So I'm planning to do that in the summer. So I'm really looking
Awesome.
forward to those big challenges. But then also, like, I just have so much planned. I have loads planned for the year, lots of fun trips, lots of holidays. I'm just so looking forward to all of that.
Fantastic. Awesome. And so, my last question for you is, if someone was thinking about signing up for my program, what would you say to them?
Absolutely do it. Of course, but I think if you're thinking of signing up to do the program, you're in the right headspace. For me, I think if somebody had shown me your program 6 months before I did it, I might have signed up, but I don't think it would have had the same effect for me. I really believe that I found the program at the right time, and I did because I was looking and I was that way inclined, and I was starting into that kind of mind body thinking. So it was at the right time. So I think if somebody's thinking about doing the program, it suggests that they're in that mindset already, and they're starting to look at that mind body connection, your central nervous system, and looking at how actually their own behaviors and characteristics could be contributing to some of the physiology in their body and having that impact. And that means that, yeah, that they're in the right place, I guess.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Such an awesome story. I'm so happy for you. Now you have your complete
Thank
freedom.
you.
I know what it feels like, and oh my goodness, I remember I got the travel bug as well. I've been traveling probably 2 months last year. I was totally
Yeah.
enjoying all kinds of things. And oh my goodness, the beautiful thing about brain training as well is that, it can help you with so many different areas of your life beyond getting better as well. And so, yeah, that's totally awesome. But thank you so much, Judith. For everyone out there watching, if you could do one thing, I'd like you to share the video with anyone who's going through chronic fatigue syndrome to let them know that they can actually get better as well, that there are answers, that it's not like an incurable illness. I was told that as well, and that's BS. It's a belief system. You totally can do this. You can get better. All right, so enjoy and speak soon. Take care. Thank you, Judith.
Bye.
Bye bye.